My cousin set her sights on my fiancé and offered herself to him at my birthday banquet. But my fiancé, a man of principle, firmly refused her. My cousin was sent to a country estate for 2 years as punishment. The first thing she did upon her return was to push me into a pond and drown me. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in time, 2 years earlier. This time, I personally locked the door for her and lit an aphrodisiac incense. Since she so desperately wanted to marry him, I would grant her wish. My timing was perfect. I had been reborn the day before my 16th birthday. So, when I saw my cousin, Amelia leading Alistair to the back courtyard at my birthday banquet, a secret joy filled my heart. Just like last time. In my past life, at my birthday banquet, Amelia, who had long harbored feelings for Alistair, had deliberately shown off her talents in front of him. Later, under some pretext, she had led him to the back courtyard. But it wasn't long before his angry shouts drew a crowd. "You shameless girl! How could you disrobe and try to seduce me?" By then, Amelia had already removed her outer robe, her face flushed, wearing only a lotus. Pink bodice in her hand, she held his belt. Alistair, though his clothes were slightly disheveled, was still fully dressed. When the crowd arrived, he had publicly exposed her seduction and made a promise to me. "Ava, even if she offers herself to me, I will not be swayed in this life. I, Alistair, will have only one wife, and that is you, Ava." Everyone praised his self-control and integrity, and they envied me for having such a devoted husband. As for Amelia, she was condemned for her shamelessness. But she was my uncle's only daughter, and my mother didn't want to be too harsh, so she was sent to a country estate to reflect on her actions. The day she was taken away by the maids was the day of my grand wedding to Alistair. 2 years passed in a flash, and the time for her return arrived. When we met again, I was adorned in gold and jade, and Alistair treated me like a precious jewel. She, on the other hand, had grown thin and haggard. When she heard my mother mention that Alistair had reached the 3rd rank at such a young age, her jealousy and resentment grew. She invited me to go boating on the lake with her. When I wasn't looking, she pushed me in and drowned me. As I was dying, I could hear her crazed screams. "Why do you get to have a good family, a good marriage, a good life, while I have to live like a dog, at your mercy?" "Ava, go to hell." I drowned. But I was reborn, 2 years in the past. The moment Amelia and Alistair entered her room, I locked the door with a bronze lock. Me handmaiden, Beatrice, looked at me in disbelief. "My lady, he is your fiancé, and there is an aphrodisiac incense burning in there. If they, what will you do?" I tossed the key to her and glanced back. I had lit the incense myself. I knew what would happen. "Be quiet, Beatrice. Don't disturb my cousin." Since she wanted to marry him, I would let her. I returned to the banquet and chatted with the other young ladies as if nothing had happened. After a while, someone asked, "Where is Ava's fiancé, Alistair?" I feigned confusion and turned to the actor who was about to take the stage. "Master Samuel, you are a good friend of his. Do you know where he has gone?" The actor was stunned, his surprise visible even under his heavy makeup. "Miss Amelia said that you had something to say to him and led him to the back courtyard. Did you not know?" I shook my head, feigning ignorance. "I did not ask my cousin to find him." The room fell silent. Someone whispered, "Perhaps Amelia and Alistair are having an affair and have gone for a secret tryst." Though a whisper, it was clear in the quiet room. The actor lowered his gaze. "You should go and see, my lady." Just as I had planned. It is human nature to love a good spectacle. And so, surrounded by a crowd of young ladies and gentlemen, I led them to Amelia's room. Before we even got close, we could hear indecent noises. I feigned confusion. "What is my cousin doing in there?" The unmarried ladies might not have understood, but the young men did, and they blushed. Just then, Beatrice picked up a handkerchief from the doorway. "My lady, isn't this the handkerchief you gave to Alistair? Why is it at your cousin's door?" I clutched the handkerchief, my face a mask of confusion. The actor stared at the closed door, his voice low. "Don't you understand, my lady? I am afraid he is in there with your cousin, lost in passion." My eyes widened. Impossible. He is a gentleman, and my cousin is like a sister to me. "How could they?" The actor snorted. "If you don't believe me, why don't you go and see for yourself?" At that moment, a bold young man stepped forward and kicked the door open. The aphrodisiac was indeed of the highest quality, colorless, odorless, but incredibly potent. When we burst in, the two of them were still lost in their passion, completely oblivious to the crowd that had gathered. I feigned shock and fell into Beatrice's arms. The actor then threw a pot of cold tea on them. Slowly, they came to their senses. Seeing so many people, Amelia frantically pulled a blanket over herself. She looked at me, then, in a desperate move, buried her face in Alistair's chest and called out, "My love." Alistair was still dazed until the actor said coldly, "Alistair, do you know what you are doing?" He snapped out of it and pushed Amelia away. "Samuel, what are you doing here?" Before Samuel could answer, I started to cry. "Alistair, how could you do this with my cousin?" Some secrets are best kept hidden for a while longer. To reveal them so early would spoil the fun. His face was grim. He looked at Amelia with a hatred that could kill. "Ava, let me explain. She tricked me. I don't know why I couldn't control myself. But Amelia, having come this far, would not let him off so easily." She threw herself into his arms, sobbing. "My love, you told me yourself when you took me to bed that you have loved me for a long time. That you would be responsible for me, that you would break off your engagement with my cousin and marry me. Are you going to go back on your word now? How will I ever be able to show my face again?" Before he could retort, a deep voice came from the doorway. "Outrageous!" It was my father. Such a scandal, in public. My father immediately wanted to break off my engagement. He said coldly, "Sir Alistair, since you are in love with Amelia and have consummated your relationship with her in public, your engagement to my Ava is hereby terminated. You will marry Amelia on a chosen day." Of course, Alistair would not agree. Amelia was just a poor orphan living with us, with no family to support her. And though he was from a noble family, his family was in decline, a mere shadow of its former glory. This was why he had come to us with a marriage proposal, citing a long-standing friendship between our grandfathers. He needed to align himself with a powerful family. He needed my family to help him climb the ladder of success. Amelia could not do that. My lord, I was truly framed. Even if I had 100 times the courage, I would never do such a thing at Ava's birthday banquet. He turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Ava, you must believe me." I pursed my lips, feigning sadness, and looked at Amelia. Now, whether she could marry him or not depended on her. And she did not disappoint. The moment our eyes met, she knelt before me, kowtowing and crying. "Cousin, Alistair and I are truly in love. Please grant us your blessing." I sat in my chair, my hand hidden in my sleeve, clenched into a fist, my nails digging into my palm. In my past life, she had also knelt before me like this. She had just returned from the country estate and had immediately knelt and kowtowed, crying that she had been foolish and had almost caused a great disaster, that she had repented and begged for my forgiveness. My mother had also persuaded me after all. She was my uncle's only child. She was young then and had admitted her mistake. We should give her another chance. By then, I had been worn down by Alistair and didn't care much for these things, so I had let it go. But a snake is still a snake, even without its fangs. Her venomous nature was ingrained. In the end, I had died at her hands. I took a handkerchief and dabbed at my dry eyes, then stood up and helped her to her feet. "Cousin, please rise. Since you and he are in love and have consummated your relationship, I am, of course, willing to grant you my blessing." She was overjoyed and rushed to take his hand. But he shook her off coldly. He looked straight at me. "Ava, I have sworn that in this life I will have only one wife." That was true. When he had proposed, he had promised me that I would be his only wife and he would never take a concubine. In my past life, He had kept his promise. There were no concubines in his household. But, I said softly, what is done is done. This is proof that we are not meant to be. In front of everyone, I ask that you give Amelia the title she deserves, to avoid any gossip that might tarnish your reputation. I paused, then added, she is, after all, my cousin. The Duke's manor is half her home. We will not let her be wronged. I am sure you know what is best. This was a threat. Otherwise, with his personality, he would not have easily married her. And all my scheming would have been for nothing. He was speechless. He glanced at the delicate Amelia, closed his eyes in resignation, and bowed. I understand. I will marry Miss Amelia on a chosen day. The news of Amelia and Alistair's affair at my birthday banquet had already spread like wildfire, and since he was not fond of her, the wedding was a rushed and perfunctory affair. But she didn't care. She was completely engrossed in the joy of marrying into a noble family. On her wedding day, her eyes were full of triumph. Not only is he from a noble family, but he is also incredibly handsome, with a gentle and kind nature. And he has just passed the highest imperial examinations with honors. He is 1 in a million. I must thank you, cousin, for giving me such a wonderful husband. I nodded in agreement. He was, as she said, not only a brilliant scholar, but also as handsome as Pan and otherwise. I would not have so readily agreed to his proposal in my past life. But what she didn't know was that he was not as gentle and kind as he seemed, and that his family was just a hollow shell, completely dependent on the dowry of a new bride. I wondered how long the dowry her parents had left her would last. Seeing my nod, she became even more smug. From now on, I will be a noble lady, the wife of the second-place scholar. I will no longer have to live at your mercy in this manner. Cousin, the husband your father so carefully chose for you is now mine, and the good life that was meant for you is also mine. I remained calm, a cold smile on my lips. It was a bottomless pit, and she thought she was about to ascend to the heavens. How foolish. Well, if she wanted to jump into the fire, let her. 3 days later, the customary visit of the bride to her family. Amelia, having no home to return to and wanting to rely on the prestige of the Duke's manor, came back to us, but she came alone. Alistair was not with her. After paying her respects to my mother, she saw me feeding the fish by the lotus pond and glided over, the gold tassels on her hairpin swaying. You are in a good mood, cousin. I looked up at her. Her heavy makeup could not conceal her haggard face. I could imagine what her past few days had been like. His mother loved to play the part of the tyrannical mother-in-law, demanding her daughter-in-law wake at dawn to serve her, and frequently complaining of headaches and dizziness, requiring her personal care. In my past life, she had treated me, a duke's daughter, like that. How much more so for Amelia, an orphan who had ruined her family's chances of revival. I threw a handful of fish food into the pond and feigned confusion, looking behind her. Why didn't he come back with you? Her expression changed. He has official duties, a man must prioritize his career. At the mention of Alistair, she became smug again. Cousin, he truly adores me. He has bought me many nourishing herbs, saying he wants me to bear him a child soon. Cousin, you shouldn't be envious after all. I am the one he loves. Even if you had married him, you might not have received such sincere affection. I nodded casually, continuing to feed the fish. She wasn't exactly lying. In my past life, after our marriage, he had also been incredibly tender at first, treating me like a precious jewel and buying me many supplements, saying he wanted a house full of children with me. But that kindness did not last, and his gentle treatment had an ulterior motive. Dissatisfied with my calm reaction, she continued to boast about his affection. Just then, Beatrice brought me a note. My lady, the program from the Crescent Moon Theater has arrived. I took it and read it, exclaiming, Master Samuel is truly the greatest actor. He only performs once every 2 weeks, and every time it is a full house. A ticket is so hard to come by. Amelia glanced at the small portrait of Samuel on the program and sneered. Though he is handsome, he is just a lowly actor, not fit for high society. Then she looked at me in disbelief. "Cousin, have you fallen for this actor?" I smiled, not answering her question, just asking. "Cousin, would you like to go to the theater with me?" Of course she would. Even if she was busy, she would find a way. After all, to see the noble daughter of a duke fall for a lowly actor would be a great source of amusement for her. The day of the play arrived. Amelia had managed to get away from the Fu Manor and was waiting for me outside the theater. "I arrived late," she chided. "Why are you so late, cousin? The play is about to start." Then she pulled me inside. I had paid a great deal for a private box on the second floor, with a perfect view of the stage. I had to admit, Samuel was a master of his craft. He played the part of Qi Yingying with such nuance and passion. The audience was captivated, sighing in unison at the end of a particularly moving scene. Just then, someone from the audience threw a string of pearls onto the stage, followed by a shower of other gifts. I couldn't help but exclaim, "That string of pearls is of the highest quality, comparable to the one your mother left you in your dowry." Amelia leaned forward. In Samuel's hand, a large pink pearl gleamed. Her face instantly fell. Of course, she recognized it. It was from her dowry, the most valuable item her mother had left her. What angered her even more was that the person who had thrown it was her husband, the one who was too busy with official duties to accompany her. I tilted my head. "That looks like your husband." At my words, her expression soured even more. She forced a smile and explained, "He must be here with his colleagues for a social gathering." I looked at the stage and sighed. The girl playing the part of the matchmaker is quite pretty. Could he have taken a liking to her? Why else would he give away your most valuable possession? Her fake smile froze, but she gritted her teeth. "You are overthinking, cousin. He promised your father that he would have only one wife and never take a concubine." Beatrice chuckled. "You are mistaken, my lady. That promise was made to my lady, not to you." Amelia's eyes widened. She glared at the actress on stage, her eyes full of malice. Jealousy can make a person lose all reason. Amelia lifted her skirts and ran downstairs, snatching the pearl necklace from Samuel's hand. She turned to Alistair. "My love, you said you were busy. What are you doing here?" Alistair was stunned for a moment, seeing her snatch away his gift and the whispers of the crowd. His face darkened. "This is not a place for you. Go home." But Amelia, clutching the necklace, her eyes full of tears, pointed at the stage. "My love, have you fallen for her?" His face went pale. He glanced at the stage, then quickly looked away. "What are you talking about?" The more he avoided her gaze, the more insecure she felt. She started to cry. "We have only been married for a little over 2 weeks, and you have already fallen for this lowly actress and are giving away my dowry." "Alistair, how could you do this to me?" The scandal of their affair was already well known. Most of the people here were of high society and had heard the rumors. They chuckled softly. One bold man, ignoring Alistair's glare, mocked him. "To reject the daughter of a duke for a shameless woman. Now you have lost both face and fortune." A wave of laughter went through the audience. Alistair felt utterly humiliated. His face so dark it looked like it was about to drip ink. Just then, the actor on stage, his expression unreadable, said softly, "Alistair, you should take your wife home." He looked at Amelia with undisguised contempt, lest a lowly person like me should offend her eyes. Alistair frowned, then dragged her away. I leaned against the railing of the second-floor box, calmly watching the show. Beatrice asked, "My lady, how did you know she would make a scene?" After all, though, Amelia was not of high birth. She always tried to act like a lady. For all these years, besides seducing Alistair, she had never done anything out of line. I looked at the actor on stage and chuckled. That pearl necklace was her most valuable possession. If she didn't get it back now, she might never get it back. She understood this, so she had cast aside all decorum. As for Alistair, just like in my past life, the gifts he gave were always the most expensive. According to her maid, when they returned to the manor, she and Alistair had a huge fight. That night, he did not stay in her room but went to the study. And he stayed there for over a month. At first, she was patient, waiting for him to come to her. But not only did he not come, but she barely even saw him. Instead, she was constantly being lectured by his mother. The day she came to the manor to complain to my mother happened to be at the temple. The only person who could comfort her was me. I took a fine purple jade bracelet from my wrist and put it on hers, my voice gentle. Your husband is navigating the treacherous waters of the court. It is normal for him to have to socialize from time to time. Why must you be so upset? It only makes you seem less like a proper wife. But you know, your husband is not only from a noble family, but he is also handsome and talented. There must be many women who admire him. Most men are unfaithful. What starts as a social obligation can easily turn into something more. She gripped my hand, a little frantic. Cousin, what should I do? I pursed my lips, feigning thought. If you have a son, and you are his legal wife, then no one can threaten your position. Her face was haggard, her cloudy eyes filled with tears. She was lost in thought. Of course, she understood. A woman needed a son to secure her position in her husband's family. But he won't even come to my room. He just gives me a cold look whenever he sees me. How can I have a son? I smiled and whispered in her ear. It is said that couples make up in bed, and you are so gentle and charming. A few soft words, and how could he resist you? I took a prescription from Beatrice. This is a fertility aid. You can try it. I don't know what she was thinking, but a blush spread across her pale cheeks, and her voice became sweet and cloying. I understand. Thank you for your advice, cousin. He and Master Samuel are good friends. When we have reconciled, I will have him put in a good word for you. At this, she became smug again. But Master Samuel is of low birth. He will never amount to much. He is no match for Alistair. It seems that in the future, you will have to rely on me, your cousin. I just smiled and drank my tea. That night, Amelia, in a thin, translucent robe, brought a nourishing soup to his study. Soon, 2 shadows flickered in the study. Alistair and Amelia had reconciled. He spent every night in her room, and even during the day, he was much gentler to her, sometimes painting her portrait, sometimes feeding her pastries. They looked like a loving couple. 3 months later, Amelia invited me to the Crescent Moon Theater again. We sat in the same second-floor box, watching the actors on stage. She was radiant, but she sighed. I didn't expect Master Samuel not to be performing today. You must be disappointed. I smiled. The actors on stage are also very good. It is not a waste. She raised an eyebrow and placed a hand on her belly. I have good news, cousin. I am with child. And he told me that his career is going well. He is about to be promoted to the 5th rank. I was a little surprised. I never thought the fertility aid would be so effective. In my past life, he had only found this prescription 6 months after our marriage, to replace the ineffective one we had been using. I had only used it for a few days before I found out I was pregnant. Seeing my surprise, a smile played on her lips. What, are you not happy for me? Or are you regretting giving me such a promising husband? She chuckled. But cousin, it is too late for regrets. This good life is mine now. I looked at the increasingly cheap hairpin in her hair and didn't argue. I just smiled. Then I wish you all the best. On the autumn equinox, I brought her favorite cherry jelly to the Fu Manor to visit her. As my carriage arrived at the gate, I saw Alistair, dressed to the nines, get into his own carriage and head in the opposite direction. Beatrice pouted. He is really something else. He knows his wife is pregnant and not feeling well. And instead of staying with her, he is all dressed up and going out. I wonder where he is going. He doesn't seem very considerate. It is a good thing you didn't marry him, my lady. You would have been miserable. She was not wrong. In my past life after marrying him, I had indeed suffered a great deal. His mother's torment, his cold indifference, and the unspoken humiliations. Remembering those things, my heart still felt as if it were being pounded with a hammer, a suffocating pain. I quickened my pace to her courtyard. When I arrived, I saw his mother just as she had been with me in my past life, forcing her to drink a folk remedy that was supposed to guarantee a son. The smell made her nauseous, and she retched. His mother was angry. "You are not some noble lady. Stop pretending to be so delicate. Drink this, and give me a grandson." She gave a signal, and a servant held her down while his mother pinched her chin and poured the dark liquid down her throat. "This is a secret recipe for bearing a son that I went to great lengths to find. You must drink it. If you can't give me a son, I will have my son divorce you." I suddenly remembered my own pregnancy. His mother had treated me the same way. Even though I was a duke's daughter, in her eyes, I was just a daughter, in law to be disciplined. I had drunk that dark concoction for 2 whole months. Whenever I sought his help, he would just gently chide his mother. "Mother, I know you mean well, but please don't be so hard on Ava." Then he would look at me with disappointment. "Ava, Mother is just trying to help. Why can't you understand?" Only when I had obediently drunk the medicine suppressing my nausea would he look at me with pleasure again. After Amelia had finished the medicine, his mother finally noticed me, now that I was no longer her daughter-in-law, but the esteemed daughter of a duke. She was much more pleasant to me. "You are here, my lady. I won't disturb you and your sister." With that, she shot Amelia a disdainful look and muttered, "Not a real noble lady after all, lacks all grace and bearing." I pretended not to hear. After she left, I sat down beside Amelia. It had been a while. Her once plump figure was now much thinner, like a bruised begonia. Perhaps not wanting me to see her in such a state, she said with a grim face, "Why did you come uninvited to laugh at me?" I shook my head and handed her the cherry jelly. "My mother heard you have been unwell and have no appetite, so she sent me to see you." At the sight of the jelly, she bit her lip, but still tried to maintain a brave face. "My mother-in-law is very attentive. She takes care of my every need. And my husband buys me this cherry jelly every day. I am tired of it, but thank you for your thoughtfulness." She thought I hadn't seen her being forced, fed the medicine, and was still trying to act the part of a noble lady. But no one in this world could understand her situation and her pain better than I, in my past life. When I was pregnant, his mother had also been very controlling of my diet. All I ate was so-called nourishing food with no regard for my own preferences, all for the sake of the baby. If it weren't for my substantial dowry, and Beatrice secretly buying me food, I would have been just as weak and haggard as she was now. But she was different from me. Her dowry was small, and he had taken most of it for his social expenses. She had little left to supplement her diet. I didn't expose her. I just looked at the setting sun. "My mother, to pray for a safe birth for you, has requested a statue of the Guanyin, who grants sons from the Puchuo Temple, the most efficacious temple for such prayers. It has been consecrated for 49 days. You can now bring it to your room. To show your sincerity, it is best that you go and get it yourself." Having a son was now her greatest hope. She readily agreed. Since she had gotten pregnant, she had been confined to her home by his mother, in the name of rest. She was rarely able to go out. The weariness on her face was finally replaced by a flicker of joy. Perhaps this would be her last happy moment. The scenery at Putuo Mountain was beautiful, the slopes covered in hosta flowers. As the carriage made its way up the mountain, we passed a large patch of them. I couldn't help but exclaim, "The fairy of the jade pool," feasting on the rosy clouds, in her drunkenness, dropped her hairpin, which transformed into a flower. How magical. Amelia, who prided herself on being a woman of letters and loved all things romantic, would not miss such a beautiful sight. She had just lifted the curtain to get out when Beatrice cried out, "Isn't that your husband's carriage?" When Beatrice looked back, she saw Amelia abruptly lift the curtain, her expression cold as she stared at the carriage. She had always been resentful of Amelia for seducing Alistair at my birthday banquet, so she deliberately widened her eyes as if she had discovered a great secret and added fuel to the fire. "What is he doing here?" Could he be keeping a lover in secret? No wonder he is not with you, even though you are not feeling well. He must have a rendezvous. I feigned a reprimand. Don't talk nonsense. It might just be a misunderstanding, but anyone could see that a small courtyard in the middle of nowhere could only mean one thing. I leaned back in the carriage, my eyes lowered. I watched as her face grew paler and paler. She got out of the carriage and stormed towards the courtyard. Before she could even push the door open, she heard the sounds of passion from within. Her angry eyes instantly turned murderous. At her signal, the coachman rammed the gate open. The sordid scene inside was revealed to them both. I only heard her heart, wrenching screams and his angry shouts. Beatrice craned her neck to see but couldn't make out the scene inside. Seeing my calm expression, she asked, "My lady, are you not at all curious who your husband is with?" I was not. Because no one knew better than I how disgusting the scene inside was. In my past life, it was also the autumn equinox. My mother had requested a statue of the Guanyin for me from the Putuo temple, and had asked me to get it myself. I had wanted him to come with me, but before I could even ask, he had said he had important official business and had rushed out. I had no choice but to go alone. Perhaps even the Bodhisattva had taken pity on me, for I had accidentally seen his carriage on the mountainside, and had thus stumbled upon that sordid scene. Even now, the memory made me sick. The coachman rushed back. "My lady, she is bleeding a lot, and she is calling for you." His brow was furrowed, as if the scene inside had shaken even him. I slowly got out of the carriage and, feigning surprise as I entered the courtyard, said the same words I had said in my past life. "Master Samuel, what are you doing here?" That is right. The person he was with was none other than his supposed best friend, Samuel. Amelia gripped my wrist, her pained expression tinged with a deep sadness. "Cousin. He. They." The words were too shameful to say. She closed her eyes in agony and clutched her stomach. "Cousin, my stomach hurts." With that, she fainted. I quickly caught her and turned to Alistair, my voice sharp. "What are you waiting for? Get her to a doctor." He seemed to be in a daze, still reeling from the sudden turn of events. It was Samuel who pulled at his sleeve and called his name. Only then did he snap out of it, pick her up, and rush to the carriage. I stood there, watching the disheveled Samuel chase after them, then collapse to the ground, sobbing. I walked over, looked down at him, and asked the question I had not been able to ask in my past life. "Since you and he are in love, why did you let him marry? Why did you have to drag an innocent woman into your sordid abyss?" Samuel bit his lip. Now that the secret was out, there was no point in hiding it. In this dynasty, such relationships are frowned upon, and he is from a noble family. How could I let him be ostracized? Besides, he is the only son for 3 generations. The Fu family needs an heir. So they had decided that he would marry and have a son to continue the family line. And they had chosen me, the famously gentle and virtuous daughter of a duke. Not only could I bear a son for the family, but I could also use my family's influence to help his career. A perfect plan. Amelia was just an accident. In my past life, everything had gone according to their plan, until I had accidentally stumbled upon their affair and learned the truth. So his self-control, his promise to have only one wife, was not for me but for Samuel, who was in the crowd. He was declaring his love for Samuel, right in front of me. I was so angry I had a miscarriage. Later, when I had asked for a divorce, he had refused. He had dropped all pretense, his eyes cold and menacing. "Ava, do you want your parents to worry and grieve over you? Your father has just recovered from a serious illness. Can he withstand such a shock? Are you not afraid of driving them to their graves?" "Ava, rest assured. I have no desire to touch you. As long as you give birth to a son, you will be the mistress of this manor, a respected and envied lady in public, and in private, we will go our separate ways." I was trapped, unable to escape, sinking deeper and deeper into the mire, living in a daze. To have a son as soon as possible. He had even consulted a fortune teller to determine the most auspicious times for us to be intimate. Every time, I had wanted to just bang my head against the wall and die. I wanted to die, but I couldn't bear the thought of my parents having to bury their own child. I could only cry myself to sleep every night, until Amelia had returned from the country estate and pushed me into the lake. The moment I sank beneath the water, I had felt a sense of release. I looked down at Samuel. His handsome face now seemed as hideous as a demon's. Samuel, you and Alistair both deserve to die. Amelia, just like me in my past life, had a miscarriage. She had already been weakened by his mother's torment, and now, with such a great shock, the child could not be saved. When she woke up, she had slapped him hard and demanded a divorce. But he still refused. Amelia, you were the one who used tricks to marry me. Now you want a divorce. Impossible. You will be a part of the FU family for the rest of your life. You are just an orphan. Where would you go if you left the FU family? You deliberately seduced me at Ava's birthday banquet and ruined her marriage. Do you think the Duke's manor will take you in? She screamed. Alistair, you bastard. He sneered. Amelia, you had better be obedient and give me a son soon. Otherwise, don't blame me for being unkind. She threw a pillow at him. Alistair, I will make you pay. He stormed out, leaving her, broken in body and spirit, to collapse on the bed, sobbing. A few days later, a volume of erotic art began to circulate in the capital. In the paintings, two men were depicted in various intimate acts. The names of the two men were written on the side. The gossip was rampant. A crowd had gathered outside the Crescent Moon Theater, forcing Samuel to go into hiding. Alistair was not faring much better. His colleagues would look at him with disgust, calling him a disgrace to scholars. At first he had been confused, just ashamed, and trying to deny the rumors. But then a colleague had shown him the paintings, and his face had instantly changed. He had fled home in a panic. I sat in a tea house across from the Few Manor with Amelia, watching as Samuel and Alistair snuck into the manor, one after the other. Her hands were clenched into fists, her teeth grinding. I took a sip of tea and sighed. Alas, your husband is a gentleman. If it weren't for Samuel's deliberate seduction, how could he have been so bewitched? You were a match made in heaven. If it weren't for Samuel, you would have been a happy couple. Now that things have come to this, I am afraid Samuel will not leave your husband alone. I don't know what to do. Her face was a mask of rage, her eyes dark and menacing as she stared at the Fu Manor, lost in thought. Then she made an excuse and returned to the manor. The moment she stepped through the gate, I knew the show was about to reach its climax. Sure enough, not even an hour later, her maid, Autumn Brew, ran out, screaming, "Murder! Alistair has killed my lady for his lover." A crowd had already gathered around the manor. Her screams made the news spread like wildfire. Before long, the magistrate arrived with his men and personally arrested him. I saw him being led away, covered in blood, muttering something. It sounded like he was calling for Samuel. What a devoted pair. How disgusting. Beatrice, let's go to the magistrate's office and see his end. In the courtroom, the magistrate's gavel pounded. Alistair sat on the floor, a soulless puppet. The only witness, Autumn Brew, was recounting the events. It turned out that he and Samuel had entered the manor one after the other. In the study, Samuel was complaining about the recent torment he had endured. These past few days, a crowd has been gathered outside the Crescent Moon Theater. The way those men look at me, it is as if I were a prostitute. They say I look more delicate than a woman, and someone touched my butt. Alistair, I am so scared. He had pulled him into his arms and comforted him. Don't be afraid, Samuel. I am here. I won't let anyone bully you. But I don't understand how this could have spread so quickly that there are even paintings. Now I am being ostracized at the Hanlon Academy. Samuel had snorted. What else could it be that day? Only your legally wedded wife and a coachman saw us. He was embarrassed. That coachman looked like a brute, and he has no reason to play such a trick on us. Who do you think did it? Just as they were talking, Amelia had burst in, her finger trembling as she pointed at them. You are shameless. Samuel, how dare you come to someone else's house and seduce their husband? You slut, shameless. With that, she had grabbed a nearby scroll and thrown it at them. It had hit Samuel on the head, and he had cried out in pain. Of course, he could not bear to see his beloved hurt. He had slapped her across the face. You bitch! How dare you hurt my Samuel? She had fallen to the floor, clutching her face and glaring at him, her eyes full of hatred. The flames of anger and humiliation had burned in her blood. She had pulled herself up, her teeth gritted. Alistair, you forced me to do this. With that, she had grabbed the paper, cutting scissors from the desk and stabbed them into Samuel's heart. The red blood had splattered on her face. She had laughed. Ha ha ha. It is all his fault for seducing you, for driving a wedge between us. My love, without him, you can finally be with me, right? Seeing his beloved die before his eyes, he had broken down. He had grabbed her hair and slammed her head against the wall. You dared to kill my Samuel. Amelia, you deserve to die. You deserve to die. Again and again. I don't know how many times he had hit her. Blood had streamed from her hair, into her dimming eyes. She had died with her eyes open. Just then, Autumn Brew, who had been hiding outside the study, had quietly slipped out and started screaming at the gate. With a witness and evidence, and with him still in a state of shock over Samuel's death, he had no strength to defend himself. He was sentenced to be executed in the autumn. Since she had caused his death, the Fu family had refused to bury her. Her body, along with Samuel's, was wrapped in a straw mat and thrown onto the mass grave. I sat in my carriage, watching as the wild dogs tore at the straw mat and began to feed on the blood-stained corpses. Beatrice, terrified, looked away, but I was unmoved. In my past life, the scene of her pushing me into the icy lake was still fresh in my mind. She had said, Ava, I was so close to marrying him. I should have been the wife of a third-rank official. It is all your fault that I didn't have a good life. I hate you. The feeling of drowning, of suffocating, still haunted me. In this life, I had granted her wish to marry him. The bottomless pit was one she had chosen to jump into herself, seeing her body almost completely devoured. I went to the prison. He had been locked up for a few days and was filthy, still in a daze, as if he had not yet recovered from the events of that day. He was a little surprised to see me. Ava, what are you doing here? I smiled and said softly, I've come to see your end. He was confused. Are you here for Amelia? I shook my head. I am here for myself. Alistair, the person who wants you dead the most in this world is me. At that moment, everything came flooding back to him. He suddenly realized that I had been present at all the key moments. The affair at the Duke's Manor, her outburst at the theater, the discovery of their tryst at the Puchuo Temple. Even the scandal that had spread through the capital was my doing. After all, a powerless orphan like her could never have pulled off something so grand. He looked at me as if I were a madwoman. Ava, just because I was with her at your birthday banquet, you want to destroy me? You are too cruel. I twirled a strand of my hair and laughed, not intending to tell him the truth. Alistair, you deliberately deceived me into marriage, so that an innocent woman's life would be ruined for your own selfish desires. You are the cruel one. I turned and left, and after I left, the jailer put a burly man in his cell. In this dynasty, though such relationships were frowned upon, they were not illegal, and some people had particular tastes. This burly man was someone I had gone to great lengths to find for him. I heard he enjoyed violent games. I am sure his remaining days would not be pleasant. When I left the prison, the sunset was painting the sky in brilliant colors. That brilliant light illuminated the ends of the earth. I walked towards the sunset, as if chasing a new life. Yes, I was reborn.